Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something straight up. How many pieces of yourself have you given away just to make someone else feel whole? How many nights have you sat in silence, fighting tears, convincing yourself, this is just love, this is just life? No, it's not. See, a woman isn't broken in one moment. She's broken in layers, slowly, by the sacrifices she was never supposed to make. Not because she's weak, but because she's strong enough to keep giving, even when it hurts. And that's why you need to hear this, because if you keep sacrificing these 7 things, you won't just lose people, you'll lose yourself. So don't move, stay with me. Because this speech, it might just save your soul. Let me tell you something most people won't say out loud. The moment you start sacrificing your self-worth just to be accepted, you're already losing the most important battle of your life. That's not dramatic, that's the truth. You want to know how a woman starts to break? It doesn't always begin with heartbreak or betrayal. It doesn't come crashing down all at once. No, it starts subtly, quietly. It starts when you begin trading your authenticity for approval, when you start holding back who you are just so you can belong, when you start saying yes when your soul is screaming no because you don't want to rock the boat, because you don't want to be too much, because you're scared they'll walk away. But what you're really afraid of is being alone with yourself. So you perform, you adjust, you conform, you lower your voice, you tone down your energy, you hide your fire, you shrink into spaces that were never designed to hold the weight of your truth, and you do it all in the name of being good enough. Let that sink in, because too many women are waking up every day exhausted, not from work, not from motherhood, not from responsibility, but from pretending to be okay, pretending to be what he wants, pretending to enjoy friendships that drain her, pretending to be small enough to fit someone else's comfort zone. But let me ask you this. What's the cost of that acceptance? You gave them a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. You dressed your wounds with silence. You made sacrifices they never even asked for because you thought love meant proving something, because you thought value came from pleasing. But the truth is, the more you seek validation from others, the more you invalidate yourself. And eventually you start forgetting who you were before the performance began. You forget the woman who spoke her mind without apology. You forget the woman who laughed from the gut, loved from the heart, and moved like she belonged in every room. You forget the woman who didn't settle, and now you hesitate. You second-guess yourself. You ask for permission. You fear being too opinionated, too independent, too emotional, too anything. But here's the brutal truth. The need to be accepted is one of the most dangerous addictions out there. Because once you start needing approval, you'll keep negotiating your worth. You'll keep trading your truth for peace. You'll keep watering yourself down to be digestible. But the right people, the ones who really see you, will never require you to shrink. They won't need you to dull your light. They won't flinch when you speak your truth. They won't walk away when your boundaries show up. In fact, they'll respect you more for it. But none of that matters if you don't respect yourself first. You were never meant to be tolerated. You were meant to be celebrated. You were never designed to blend in. You were made to stand out, not just in how you look, but in how you think, how you feel, how you move through this world. But you can't do that if you keep sacrificing your self-worth at every table just to keep a seat. You know what happens when you keep giving away pieces of yourself to be loved? Eventually, there's nothing left to give. You run empty. You feel hollow. And you start resenting the very people you once tried to please. Why? Because deep down you know this. You were never truly loved, only tolerated, only used, only conditionally accepted. And nothing is more painful than waking up one day realizing you don't even recognize yourself anymore because you were too busy trying to be who they wanted. Let me be real with you. If someone can only love the version of you that's silent, submissive, and small, then they don't love you. They love their control over you. And that's not love. That's not approval. That's manipulation. You were not created to be manipulated into smallness. You were built to be powerful, passionate, raw, real, and free. So here's the challenge. Stop looking outward for what can only be found inward. Stop handing your worth to people who don't even value themselves. Stop performing. Start being. Your truth is loud enough. Your presence is enough. Your standards are valid, and your self-worth is not up for discussion. You don't need to be more likable. You don't need to be more agreeable. You just need to be more you. If that costs you people who were never meant to be in your life long-term, so be it. If it makes others uncomfortable, let them adjust. If it means walking alone for a while, walk with your head high. Because the minute you stop sacrificing your worth to be accepted, you start attracting people who truly honor you. And when that happens, you'll never go back to begging for love again. So hold your ground, speak your truth, and never apologize for being exactly who you are. Because you are not here to be approved, you are here to be whole. You know what's worse than being alone? Being in a relationship where you still feel alone. That kind of loneliness, it doesn't just echo in your heart, it crushes your spirit. It makes you question your worth. It makes you doubt your beauty, your strength, your purpose. Let me break this down for you. There's a different kind of pain that comes from staying in a relationship that starves your soul. You're showing up, you're giving, you're lovingly, freely, and fiercely, but deep down you know it's not being returned. Not the same way, not with the same fire, not with the same depth. But you keep holding on. You keep making excuses. You keep saying, maybe they'll change. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe love is supposed to hurt a little. Love should never make you feel like you're dying inside. The mistake so many women make is believing that being loyal to someone else means abandoning yourself. You pour from your cup until there's nothing left. You silence your voice just to keep the peace. You dim your light so they can shine. You give and give and give until one day you look in the mirror and you don't even recognize the woman staring back. She's tired, she's drained, she's broken, but pretending to be whole. And it all started the moment you believed that your love could fix someone who doesn't even see they're broken. It's not your job to heal someone who keeps cutting you with their wounds. It's not your responsibility to save a person who's comfortable watching you drown emotionally while they stay afloat in their silence, their ego, their neglect. But you stay. You stay because you think history equals destiny. You stay because you're afraid to start over. You stay because you've convinced yourself that maybe this is what love is supposed to look like. Sacrifice, struggle, survival. But listen to me. You were not created to survive love. You were created to thrive in love. Love is not supposed to feel like a prison sentence with emotional parole. It's not supposed to be a battlefield where your heart is always under attack. Love isn't supposed to make you question your value or compromise your soul. You think holding on makes you strong? No. Letting go, that takes real strength. It takes courage to walk away from what's familiar. To release someone you've invested time, dreams, and energy into. To choose yourself when everything around you is telling you to settle. But I'll tell you this. Every time you stay in a relationship that starves your soul, you teach yourself that your peace is negotiable. that your tears are acceptable, that your silence is safer than your truth. And eventually, you forget what it means to feel joy. Not temporary pleasure, not surface level comfort, but real, soul deep joy. The kind of joy that wraps around you like light. The kind of joy that doesn't require pretending. So ask yourself, are you really in love, or are you just afraid of being alone? Are you truly seen, or are you just convenient? Are you growing together, or are you shrinking to keep the relationship alive? Because there's a difference between someone being in your life and someone truly being for your life. One takes, the other builds. One drains, the other pours. One clings to you because they fear losing control. The other chooses you because they value your soul. You have to be honest with yourself. There's no healing in holding on to someone who feeds your body but starves your spirit. There's no future in building with someone who won't even meet you halfway. There's no peace in staying where you're not loved fully, deeply, and willingly. And no matter how much you love them, no matter how much potential you see in them, no matter how long you've known them, you can't make a home out of someone who was never ready to be a shelter for your soul. Stop trying to earn love. Stop trying to prove your worth to people who were never meant to understand you. You don't have to stay in a relationship that breaks you in pieces just to prove you're loyal. Let that sink in. You can walk away. You can start again. You can choose peace over pain. You can love yourself enough to say, this isn't enough for me anymore. Because a relationship is not a place where your soul should wither. It should be the garden where you bloom, the sanctuary where your spirit breathes, the mirror that reflects back your greatness, not your emptiness. So if you're in a relationship that starves your soul, it's time to stop asking, what more can I do? And start asking, what am I still doing here? You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are not too emotional, too intense, too complicated. You are simply asking for the same energy you give. And if they can't meet you there, let them go. Because the greatest act of love is not holding on to someone who doesn't see your value, is finally choosing you. Somewhere along the way, someone convinced you that in order to love fully, you had to lose parts of yourself. That being a good woman, a loyal woman, a ride or die woman meant shelving your dreams so someone else could chase theirs. So you put your ambitions on pause. You buried your passions. You silenced the fire burning inside of you, and you told yourself, one day, I'll get back to it. But that day kept slipping further and further away. Giving up your dream for someone else's comfort might seem noble, but it's a slow death, a quiet suffering, a wound that doesn't bleed but aches every single day. You stop writing, you stop creating, you stop dreaming because you're too busy supporting everyone else. And after a while, you forget you even had a dream to begin with. Let me ask you something. When did your purpose become second place? When did your calling start collecting dust behind someone else's goals? When did you begin thinking that your dream wasn't urgent, wasn't necessary, wasn't worthy? You wake up every day pushing, sacrificing, adjusting, trying to make sure they succeed, they grow, they thrive. And you shrink. You tell yourself, this is just a season, let me help them, then I'll chase my own. But seasons have turned into years, and years into regrets. And now you're sitting in the middle of a life that looks nothing like the one you imagined, all because you thought love meant giving up who you are to make someone else feel secure, comfortable, in control. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. If your dream threatened someone else's comfort It's not your dream that's the problem. It's their insecurity. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself. Real love doesn't demand your silence. It pushes you, challenges you, supports you. So if you've been told to wait your turn, or it's not the right time, or your dream isn't realistic, hear me now. You were not given that vision to bury it. You weren't given those gifts to hoard them. You weren't placed here just to be someone's shadow while your light flickers and dies. That dream you carry, that thing that keeps tugging at your spirit, even when you try to ignore it, that's not an accident. It's your purpose. It's your assignment. And every time you abandon it to make someone else more comfortable, a part of you dies. You begin to resent them. You begin to resent yourself. And before long, love turns into obligation. Support turns into servitude.
In your identity, it becomes just a memory. Don't you dare let comfort kill your calling. You weren't meant to play small. You weren't built to be invisible. You weren't created just to carry others. You were meant to soar too. I get it. You were raised to be strong, to hold it all together, to be the backbone, the nurturer, the caretaker. You watched generations of women sacrifice everything for their families, their relationships, their children. And now you carry that same expectation like a badge of honor. But listen closely. Sacrifice without fulfillment is not love. It's slavery. You owe it to yourself to fight for your dream. Not someday, not when it's convenient, not when everyone else is okay, because the world doesn't benefit from a woman who's only half alive. It doesn't need more women who are exhausted from building everyone else's empire while theirs sits in ruins. It needs women who walk in their full power, who refuse to apologize for their vision, who understand that loving others never means abandoning themselves. You can be a mother and still chase your dream. You can be a wife and still walk in your purpose. You can support someone and still demand space for your own gifts. You don't have to choose between being loving and being lit from within. And if someone tries to make you choose, they were never built to walk beside you in the first place. You want to know what's powerful? A woman who knows what she wants and refuses to let fear, guilt, or shame keep her from going after it. A woman who stops asking for permission to be great. A woman who says, I've supported you, but now it's time for me to support myself. That kind of woman changes the world. So if you've been sitting on your dream, waiting, hoping, sacrificing, let this be the moment you wake up. Let this be the moment you decide your calling matters. Let this be the moment you stop shrinking and start stretching. Let this be the moment you take your life back, not from someone else, but from the lie that told you your dream didn't matter. It does. It always did. Now go after it unapologetically. There's a special kind of heartbreak no one talks about. It's not caused by betrayal, not caused by loss. It's caused by slow surrender. Giving up the life you were meant to live so someone else can feel more secure in theirs. It's the kind of pain that creeps in silently. You don't even realize it's happening until one day you wake up, look in the mirror, and wonder, who am I anymore? You were born with a spark, with a calling deep inside your bones, a fire that told you you're meant for more. You used to dream with your eyes wide open. You had plans. You had goals. But then love came along, or at least what you thought was love, and you started compromising. Little by little, you made yourself smaller. You told yourself it was temporary, that it was a phase, that one day you'd circle back to your own dreams, but you never did. Giving up your purpose for someone else's peace doesn't make you loyal. It makes you lost. And nobody tells women this. Nobody warns them that supporting others doesn't have to mean silencing yourself, that being loving doesn't mean being invisible, that partnership doesn't mean you become the passenger in your own life. But that's what happens. You start making excuses. You say, I'm just being supportive. I'm being realistic. But deep down, you're drowning. You're watching your life pass by like a movie you're no longer starring in. And every day you hold back, a part of you fades. That novel you wanted to write, that business you wanted to start, that talent you buried so deep it's starting to feel like a distant memory. Those weren't random ideas. Those were whispers from your soul. Comfort is the enemy of growth. When you sacrifice your calling to make someone else more comfortable, you are not being noble. You're being manipulated. You're being boxed in. And what's worse, you're participating in your own suffocation. You're allowing someone else's fears, someone else's limits to define the size of your life. That man who told you your dream was too much, that family member who rolled their eyes when you talked about your goals, that friend who said you should just be grateful for what you have. They weren't trying to protect you. They were trying to keep you where they felt safe. Because the moment you break free, the moment you rise, it exposes the fact that they chose not to. That's why your light intimidates them. That's why they convince you to dim it. You were not put on this earth to keep other people comfortable. You weren't created to downplay your brilliance so someone else can feel big. You weren't designed to carry everyone else while your own potential rots in the corner. This world is already full of people who quit on themselves. Don't become one of them. You may think you're keeping the peace, but what you're really doing is betraying yourself. Every time you say, maybe next year, or let me just help them first, you're sending a message to your soul that it doesn't matter. And that voice inside of you, that quiet, persistent voice that keeps reminding you there's more, that's not just a fantasy. That's your calling, and you can't outrun it forever. The resentment creeps in. You start snapping at people not because of what they did, but because you're angry with yourself, angry for settling, angry for waiting, angry for watching your life become a reflection of everyone else's needs while yours go unmet. You want to know what pain really looks like? It's not failure. It's not rejection. It's being 40, 50, 60 years old and realizing you lived everyone else's life, except your own. That pain is quiet, but it's permanent. And here's the real tragedy. The people you sacrificed everything for, half the time, they didn't even ask for it. They didn't even appreciate it. Some of them moved on, chasing their dreams while you stood still. Some of them got comfortable with you being the background, the support, the cheerleader, and now you're afraid to take center stage because it might disrupt what you've built.
Let it disrupt, but let it shake the ground. Let it cause chaos if it has to, because nothing should cost you your destiny. Not love, not loyalty, not comfort. You deserve to live fully, not half-heartedly, not in pieces, and certainly not as a supporting character in your own story. You want to know what strength is? Is not just holding everyone together. It's standing up one day and saying, I love you, but I refuse to lose me. It's saying, I gave you everything. Now it's time I give something back to myself. That's the moment your life changes. That's the moment you stop existing and start living. That's the moment you choose courage over comfort, purpose over pleasing, and destiny over delay. Don't give up your dreams for someone else's comfort. Because if they truly love you, they'll never be threatened by your light. They'll fan your flame, not ask you to put it out. Your life is calling. Pick it up before it's too late. There is a weight that women carry far too often, one that isn't made of stone or steel, but of silence. A silence that comes from swallowing your truth just to keep the peace. A silence that starts as a whisper and ends in a scream. Locked behind your smile, tucked into your daily routines, buried deep beneath your "I'm fine," but you're not fine. You're exhausted from pretending. You've been taught that silence is strength, that biting your tongue, walking on eggshells, and keeping your thoughts to yourself is what makes you a good woman. You've been conditioned to believe that saying too much makes you emotional, difficult, dramatic, so you stay quiet. You accept blame. You apologize when it's not your fault. You let things slide. And with each moment of silence, a piece of you disappears. There's a lie that's been passed down through generations, this idea that your silence will protect your relationships, that it will make love last, that it will prevent conflict. But what it really does is kill connection. It kills authenticity. Because how can someone truly love you if they don't really know you? How can someone respect you